The Screwtape Letters, written by C.S. Lewis, Part 5. Letter number 13. My dear Wormwood, it seems to me that you make a great many pages to tell a very simple story. The long and short of it is that you have let the man slip through your fingers. The situation is very grave, and I'm ready to see no reason why I should try to shield you from the consequences of your inefficiency. A repentance and renewal of what the other side calls grace, on a scale which you describe, is a defeat of the first order. It amounts to the second conversion, and probably on a deeper level than the first. As you ought to have known, the asphyxiating cloud which prevents you from attacking the patient on his walk back from the old mill is a well-known phenomenon. It is the enemy's most barbarous weapon, and generally appears when he is directly present to the patient under certain modes not yet fully classified. Some humans are permanently surrounded by it and therefore inaccessible to us. And now, for your blunders. On your own showing, you first of all allowed the patient to read the book he really enjoyed, because he enjoyed it and not in order to make clever remarks about it to his new friends. In the second place, you allowed him to walk down to the old mill and have tea there, a walk through country he really likes, and taken alone. In other words, you allowed him two real positive pleasures. Were you so ignorant as not to see the danger of this? The characteristic of pains and pleasures is that they are unmistakably real, and therefore, as far as they go, give the man who feels them a touchstone of reality. Thus, if you have been trying to damn your man by the romantic method, by making him the kind of child herald or Werther submerged, is self-pity or imaginary distresses, you should try to protect him at all costs from any real pain. Because, of course, 5 minutes genuine toothache would reveal the romantic sorrows for the nonsense they were and unmask your whole strategy. But you are trying to damn your patient by the world, that is, by palming off vanities, bustle, irony, and expensive tedium as pleasures. How can you have failed to see that a real pleasure was the last thing you ought to have let him meet? Didn't you foresee that it would just kill by contrast all the triumphathy which you have been so laboriously teaching him to value, and that the sort of pleasure which the book and the walk gave him was the most dangerous of all? That it would peel off from his sensibility the kind of crust you have been forming on it, and make him feel that he was coming home recovering himself. As a preliminary to detaching him from the enemy, you wanted to detach him from himself, and had made some progress in doing so. Now it is all undone. Of course I know that the enemy also wants to detach himself from themselves, but in a very different way. Remember always that he really likes the little vermin, the sets of absurd value of the distances of every one of them, when he talks of their losing themselves. He only means abandoning the clamor of self-will. Once they have done that, he really gives them back all their personality, and boasts, I'm afraid sincerely, that when they are wholly, they will be more themselves than ever. Hence, while he is delighted to see them sacrificing even their innocent wills to his, he hates to see them drifting away from their own nature for this any other reason. And we should always encourage them to do so. The deepest likings and impulses of any man are the raw material, the starting point with which the enemy has finished him. To get him away from those is therefore always the point gained, even if things indifferent, it is always desirable to substitute the standards of the world, or convention, or fashion, for a human's real likings and dislikings. I myself would carry this very far. I would make it a rule to eradicate from my patient any strong personal taste which is not actually a sin, even if it is quite trivial, something of the fondness of our country ticket, or collecting stamps, or drinking cocoa. Such things, I grant you, have nothing of virtue in them, but there is a sort of innocence and humility and self-forgetfulness about them that I distrust. The man who truly is disinterested enjoys any one thing in the world, for its own sake and without carrying two pennants of what other people say about it, is that very fact forearmed against some of our subtlest modes of attack. You should always try to make the patient abandon the people or food or books he really likes in favor of the best people, the right food, or important books. I have known a human defended from strong temptations to social ambition by a still stronger taste for tripe and onions. It remains to consider how we can receive this disaster. The great thing is to prevent him from doing anything, as long as he does not convert it into action. It does not matter how much he thinks about this new repentance. Let the little brute wallow in it. Let him. If he has any bent that say, write a book about it, that is often an excellent way of sterilizing the seeds which the enemy plants in the human soul. Let him do anything but act. No amount of piety in his imagination and affections will harm us if we can keep him out of his will. As one human of the humans once said, active habits are strengthened by repetition, but passive ones are weakened. The more often he feels without acting, the less he will be able to ever act, and in the long run, the less he will be able to feel. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape. My dear Wormwood, the most alarming thing in your last account of the patient is that he is making none of those confident resolutions which marked his original conversion. No more lavish promises of perpetual virtue. I gather not even the expectation of an endowment of grace for life, but only the hope of a daily and hourly pittance to meet the daily and hourly temptation. This is very bad. I see only one thing to do at the moment. Your patient has become humble. Have you drawn his attention to the fact? All virtues are less formidable to us once the man is aware that he is one of them. But this is specifically true for humility. Catch him at the moment when he is really poor in spirit and struggle into his mind the gratifying reflection, by Jove, I'm being humble. And almost immediately, pride at his own humility, will appear. If he awakes to the danger and tries to smoother this new form of pride, make him proud of his attempt, and so on, through many of the stages as you please. But don't try this too long, for fear you awake his sense of humor and proportion, in which case he will merely laugh at you and then go to bed. But there are other profitable ways of fixing his attention to the virtue of humility. By this virtue, as by all the others, our enemy wants to turn the man's attention away from self of him and to the man's neighbors. All the objection and self-hatred and designation in the long run, solely for this end. Unless they attain this end, they do us little harm, and they may even do us good if they keep the man concerned with himself. And, above all, in self-contempt can be made the starting point for contempt of others' selves, and thus for gloom, cynicism, and cruelty. You must therefore conceal from the patient the true end of humility. Let him think of it not as a self-forgetfulness, but as a certain kind of opinion, namely, a low opinion of all of his talents and character. Some talents, I gather, he really has. Fix in his mind the idea that humility consists of trying to believe those talents to be less valuable than he believes them to be. No doubt they are, in fact, less valuable than he believes, but that it is not the point. The great thing is to make him value the opinion for some quality other than truth, thus introducing an element of dishonesty and make-believe into his heart that what otherwise threatens to become a virtue. By this method, though, thousands of humans have been brought to think that humility means pretty women trying to believe they are ugly, or clever men trying to believe that they are fools. And since what they are trying to believe may in some cases be manifest nonsense, they believe succeeding in believing, and we cannot chance in keeping their minds endlessly revolving on themselves in an effort to achieve the impossible. To anticipate the enemy's strategy, we must consider his aims. The enemy wants to bring the man to a state of mind in which he could design the best cathedral in the world, and knows it is the best, and rejoice in the fact, but being any more or less, or otherwise glad at having done it, that he would have been if it had been done by another. The enemy wants him, in that end, to be so free from any bias in his own favor that he can rejoice in his own talents as frankly and gratefully as in the neighbor's talents, or in a sunrise, an elephant, or a waterfall. He wants each man, in the long run, to be able to recognize all creatures, even himself, as glorious and excellent things. He wants to kill the animal self-love as soon as possible, but it is his long-term policy, I fear, to restore to them a new kind of self-love, a charity and gratitude for all selves, including their own, which they have really learned to love their neighbors as themselves. They will be allowed to love themselves as their neighbors. For we must never forget that is the most repellent and inexplicable trait of our enemy. He really loves the hairy bipeds he has created and always gives back to them with his right hand what he has taken away with his left. His whole effort, therefore, will be to get the man's mind off the subject of his own value altogether. He would rather the man through himself a great architect or a great poet and then forget about it, than that he should spend so much time and pains trying to think himself a bad one. Your efforts to instill either vainglory or false modesty into the patient will therefore be met from the enemy's side from the obvious reminder that the man is not usually called upon to have an opinion of his own talents at all, since he can very well go on improving them to the best of his ability without deciding on his own precise niche in the temple of the fame. You must try to exclude his reminder from the patient's consciousness at all costs. The enemy will also try to render real in the patient's mind a doctrine which they all professed but find it difficult to bring home to their feelings. The doctrine that they did not create themselves, that their talents were given to them, and that they might as well be proud of the color of their hair. But always and by all methods, the enemy will be to get the patient's mind off such questions, and you will be there to fix it on them. Even of his sins, the enemy does not want you to think too much. Once they are repented, the sooner the man turns his attentions outwards, the better the enemy is pleased. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape. My dear Wormwood, I have noticed, of course, that the humans were having a lull in the European war, what they naively call the war. I am not surprised that there is a corresponding lull in the patient's anxieties. Do you want to encourage this or to keep him worried? Tortured fear and stupid confidence are both desirable states of mind. Our choice between them raises important questions. The humans live in time, but their enemy destines them to eternity. He therefore, I believe, wants them to attend chiefly to two things: to eternity itself, and to that point of time which they are called the present. For the present, it is point at which time touches eternity. Of the present moment, and of it only, humans have an experience analogous to all the experience which our enemy has of reality as a whole. In it alone, freedom and actuality are offered to them. He would therefore have them continuously concerned about either which eternity, which means being concerned with him, or with the present, either meditating on their eternal union with or separation from himself, or else obeying the present voice of consciousness, bearing the present cross, receiving the present grace, giving thanks for the present pleasure. Our business is to get them away from the eternal and from the present. With this in view, we sometimes tempt a human, say a widow or a scholar, to live in the past. But this is a limited value, for they have some real knowledge of the past, and it has a determined nature and, to that extent, resembles eternity. It is far better to make them live in the future. Biological necessity makes all their passions point to the direction already, so that through about the future inflames hope and fear. Also, it is unknown to them, so that in making them think about it, we make them think of unrealities. In a word, the future is, of all things, the thing least like eternity. It is the most completely temporal part of time, for the past is frozen and no longer flows, and the present is all lit up with eternal rays. Hence the encouragement we have given to all those schemes of thought such as a creative evolution, scientific humanism, or communism, which fix men's affections on the future, on the very core of temporality. Hence, nearly all vices are rooted in the future. Gratitude looks to the past, and love to the present. Fear, avarice, lust, and ambition look ahead. Do not think lust is an exception. When the present pleasure arrives, the sin, which alone interests us, is already over. The pleasure in just the part of the process which we regret and would exclude, if we could do so without losing the sin, it is in part contributed by the enemy, and therefore experienced in the present. The sin which is our contribution looked forward. To be sure, the enemy wants men to think of the future too, just so much as it is necessary for now planning the acts of justice or charity which will probably be their duty tomorrow. The duty of planning the morrow's work is today's duty. Through the material is borrowed from the future, the duty, like all duties, is in the present. This is now straw splitting. He does not want men to give the future their hearts, to place their treasure in it. We do. His ideal is a man who have worked all day for the good of prosperity, if that is his vocation, washes his mind of the whole subject, commits the issue to heaven, and returns at once to the patience or gratitude demanded by the moment that is passing over him. But we want the man hag-ridden by the future, haunted by visions of an imminent heaven or hell upon earth, ready to break the enemy's commands in the present if by doing so we make him think he can attain the one or other advent of the other, dependent for his faith, or the success or failure of schemes whose end he will not live to see. We want a whole race perpetually in pursuit of the rainbow's end, never honest, nor kind, nor happy now, but always using a mere fuel wherewith to heap the altar of the future every real gift which is offered them in the present. It allows them, in general, and other things being equal, that it is better for your patient to be filled with anxiety or hope, it doesn't matter which, about this war, than for him to be living in the present. But the phrase living in the present is ambiguous. It may describe the process, which is really just as much concerned with the future as anxiety itself. Your man may be untroubled about the future, not because he is concerned with the present, but because he has been persuaded himself that the future is going to be agreeable, as long as it is the real cause of his tranquility. His tranquility will do us good, because it is only piling up more disappointment, and therefore more impatient. For him, when his false hopes are dashed, if, on the other hand, he is aware of the horrors that may be in store for him, and is praying for the virtues wherewith to meet them, and meanwhile concerning himself with the present, because there and there alone all duty, all grace, all knowledge, and all pleasure dwell, his state is very undesirable and should be attacked at once. Here again, our philological arm has done good work. Try the word complacency on him. But of course it is most likely that he is living in the present, for none of those reasons, but simply because his health is good and he is enjoying his work. The phenomenon would then be merely natural. All the same, I should break it up if I were you. No natural phenomenon is really in our favor. And anyway, why should this creature be happy? Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape.